Okay, so let's get started properly. My name's Peter Small. I'm a careers advisor and director of a company called the Yeti Limited. So from my perspective, I go into schools, colleges, and I offer one-to-one careers guidance interviews with students. Some of you are in schools that I'm in. Hello to those of you from IDSL. I know there's a big group from IDSL that are attending. But I know that this invitation has also gone international. I know we've got people from all over the world joining us. One of those, Kayla, hello. We've already met. She's had a chat. And that's excellent. That's exactly what we wanted. The reason for today's session came about based on my interviews in one of my schools. I felt there was a lot of interest in joining the police. It's something that I've seen grow and develop over the past 12, 18 months. So I thought there was a need there to put something on to talk about what are the routes, what are the options, what are the training routes into the police, into the emergency services. Although we are going to be talking quite specifically about Staffordshire, the rules, the process, the system applies to most police forces across the UK. I'm sure Iaz and John will mention that a little bit shortly. We've got a couple of people joining as guest speakers who are going to go through options for you. I'll let them introduce themselves shortly. Just in terms of housekeeping, we have got the chat function. So if you do have any questions, you should have a chat icon at the bottom of the screen on the toolbar, the floating toolbar. I can see some of you are on that already. You can post a question in there for the whole group, or you can direct that to me if you want to, or John or Iaz. And that's probably the best place for you to post any questions should you have them. There are other formats. I'm happy for you to sort of tweet that message out to me if you want to do that, if you're happy to do that. Again, I'll be monitoring Twitter as we go through today's session. I'll also be keeping an eye on the chat function. I'm conscious that with so many of you, there may be some very specific questions. I can't promise we'll get through everybody's. However, we'll do the best we can. If there is a theme there, if there are some common questions, I'll be picking just that out so that we can ask and pose that question. What I will then do is if there's anything specific after the event, we'll make sure you've got contact details, at least for myself. You can see up there, you've got all of my social media details at the top. I'll make sure you have an email address for me as well. And you can always come back through the link that you used to book a space on today's webinar. So thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate so many people being interested in this. I hope it meets your needs. As I say, any issues, any concerns as we go through, make sure you let us know at the top of the screen. If you can hear, if there are any IT issues, again, pop that in the chat. I'll help you. There's a couple of people on there who are helping out with that as well. So let's go into our guests. John, can I ask you to unmute yourself and tell us a bit about who you are and what you do, please?
Hello, everybody. My name's John Maher. I am a retired police officer. I did 32 years with Greater Manchester Police. Since retiring, I basically run a company that shows people two things: how to get into the police, and we provide materials, learning materials for people who have joined the police to help them get through their initial training. I do know, well, most things about the recruitment process, and I'm happy to answer any questions on that or anything else in terms to do with the assessment centres that you have to pass or the police training that you will be involved once you join.
That's great. Thank you very much, John. Iaz, can I ask you to just do a bit of an introduction and what you do now, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me first of all?
Yep.
Yeah, that's really good. Loud and clear. Thank you.
Excellent. Is my video working? I can't seem to...
Yes, I can see you.
I am. Oh, excellent. That's fine. My name is Ijaz. I'm a current serving police officer. Just got just over 20 years in the force. I worked for various forces before joining or transferring to Staffordshire the latter part of 2019. I currently work as a positive action officer for Staffordshire. That involves working with recruiting teams and HR in ensuring that our services are basically catered for all the underrepresented groups within our communities, and particularly those that fall under the protected characteristics. And although we assist with generally with all the applications that we put through on a sort of annual basis, our niche is really to hone into those applicants that fall within those protected characteristics framework, and to ensure that they are provided with additional support so that they can basically have the same platform for competition when applying for jobs. So that looks at candidates with disabilities, visible or non, members of our community or candidates from the LGBT community, BME, and various others. So that's the niche that I tend to work in. So the support that we provide allows that additional support in readiness for online tests, the assessment center processes, and then support from where pre-employment. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what I do.
That's great. Thank you very much. So I'm going to go to Iyaz first, and I'm going to ask you just to take us through. Somebody wanted to join the police force in the UK, in particular, in your case, obviously Staffordshire. How do they do that? What are the routes in? What are their options? John, then I'll come to you.
Okay, Peter.
Okay, currently, I mean, the police services have gone with a bit of transformation in the last few years. Currently, it's been quite unique that certain forces have taken up certain directions in entry requirements for police forces. So, for example, for Staffordshire, there are currently two main routes into Staffordshire Police. One is the Police Constable Degree Holder program, what we call the PCDA or apprenticeship, and the other one is the DHEP, which is the Degree Holder program. So the first one, the PCDA, basically you don't need necessarily to have a degree to apply, but you do need level 3 qualifications that amount to 64 UCAS points. Now, what I want to do before I go any further, because I think there'll be probably a lot of questions around eligibility about qualifications, what people actually are studying for, what they already have, whether some of the qualifications are from abroad, i.e. different countries around the world. There is a website that is very useful for calculating what qualifications you have, which will enable you to test to see whether your qualifications basically fit that criteria. So the website is www.ucas.com/UCAS/tariff calculator. And basically, if you go onto that website, you're able then to put in the qualification that you already have or you are studying for, which will give you an idea whether that would equate to the UCAS points that we are looking for. With the PCDA, although you don't need a degree to join or to apply, you will, however, be studying for a professional degree in policing practice. That basically will take about 3 years. So whilst you are a fully fledged police constable working in uniform, at the same time, you will be studying for a degree in policing. A lot of the learning is online, so that you are in a slotted time in order for you to carry out those studies. And at the end of the 3 years, you are then afforded, if you're successful, you're afforded a degree in policing, which can be used anywhere. It can be used anywhere outside policing. Of course, if you choose to stay, then the job in policing is guaranteed for you. The second one is the DHEP, for which you do need to have a degree in order to join. Basically that whilst you have a degree, but the degree must not be related to policing. So it's got to be a degree which has got nothing to do with policing practice. We get that query a lot of the times where a lot of candidates wish to join, but they already are studying for a degree in policing or policing related subjects. It's got to be a degree outside the policing framework. You study basically for a 2-year advanced diploma in policing. Again, a lot of the learning is online through our partnership with Staffordshire College. And at the end of the 2 years, you're then awarded a diploma in policing, and of course, guaranteed a job once those 2 years is up. So basically, whilst you're learning the job, you're being paid to do a full-time job. You are a fully fledged police officer. Although you're within your probationary period, you are assigned a tutor who goes through with you day-to-day practical aspects of policing. And at the same time, you are awarded the time to do a lot of learning online in order for you to obtain that qualification. That's it for now.
That's lovely. Thank you very much. So that's your broad strokes sort of routes in. John, I'm going to ask you to talk a bit more about the assessment process. I think that's probably where your expertise is, certainly from your experience. Can you tell us a bit more about if the students are going to apply, what can they expect?
Yes, Peter. But just before I come on to that, Peter, can I just add something about the degree routes?
Yeah.
Because what I would say is, obviously, this is most of the people are probably considering Staffordshire, but each police force is different, and the minimum requirement nationally from the Home Office to join the police is a level 3 qualification. It doesn't have to be a level 3 qualification that has UCAS points, but each force will do something different. And as I know, Staffordshire asked for a total of 64 UCAS points. Some forces asking for 100 UCAS points. Some ask for 30. Some ask for none. Some will ask for, like I was speaking to the head of Sussex Police today, they ask for 32 UCAS points or a certificate in knowledge of policing. They take that as an equivalent. So the point is, the minimum requirement is a level 3 qualification on the national credit framework. After that, forces can and do add their own specific requirements, and they can all be different. So what you would need to do is look at the website of the force you are joining to find out exactly what their requirements are, because they are all different. So that's just if you were considering other forces than just Staffordshire. So the assessment centre, no matter which route you go down, which force you join, you will have to pass the National Assessment Centre. There are 3 forms of that that are in use across the country. There's one that's been going for about 20 years, which was the Search Assessment Centre, which involves role plays, interviews, and a written exercise. There's one that was developed by the Met that the Met Police started using, and a couple of other forces started trialling, which is called the one-day assessment, which again is a mixture of written exercises, collaboration exercises where you act as a group in a room, and interactive exercises, i.e. role plays again. The one that's predominantly in use right at this moment in time is the online assessment, which they brought in because of COVID. And that is the one at this moment in time, and I think probably for a reasonable foreseeable future is the one that you'll have to do, which is the online assessment. Now that involves a competency-based type interview. It involves written exercises, a briefing exercise, and that's a situational judgment test as well. So they are the different parts of the online assessment. That's one of our things we do, is we provide courses, and we provide an online course showing you how to deal with each bit of that assessment.
That's great. Thank you very much. I should have said at the start, I'll make sure as a follow-up to this, everybody that's attending gets the recording. As part of that, I'll make sure you have links to what John has on offer and to some of the stuff that he has mentioned in terms of applications, where to look, and some of the best sites. There are some really good resources out there. John's is one of those that can really kind of help you focus on your application and really help you break in. We've got a couple of really good questions come through, so I want to put these to both you, John, and Diaz, if we're there, because I think we've got some time as well. So, in terms of the degree apprenticeship route, there's quite a few questions coming in, and I always get asked about application and acceptance rates. Do we know how many apply? Do we know how many are accepted onto that sort of route? John, if I can go to you, and then we'll come to Iaz.
I don't, Peter, and to be honest with you, that, mate, it's very, very new, these new degree routes. I mean, it's only just recently the initial police learning development program has stopped for some forces. So it's all new. So I don't know if Iaz can assist you with that. I don't know what.
Okay. Thank you. Iaz?
Yeah, in terms of, I don't have the exact numbers as such, but I certainly know that the PCDA route is not as full as our DHAP route, which is the degree holder, i.e. you already have a degree. For the DHAP at the moment, we have a waiting list of about 15 months for the DHAP. However, for the PCDA, it's less than that, and there is a bit of movement in relation to getting applicants accepted onto that program. So our DHAP program has been really successful to the point where we do have a waiting list for those. And the PCDA, we have some movement on that where we're still running recruitment programs for that during 2021.
That's great. Thank you very much. That's good to know as well. Certainly from my perspective, that's good information. What about if a student is interested in going into CID and training as a detective level, if that's the kind of role that they would like? Is there a different entry route or recruitment process for that particular role? Iaz, if we can come back to you for that first and then back to John.
Yeah, certainly. We recently, just last year, completed a direct entry to CID route. It's the same route as the degree holder program, similar training. You would start off in uniform. You will complete your probation period with a tutor constable. You will learn the basic role of a police officer whilst you're studying for the qualifications. But at the end of the probations, once you're successful and you've passed everything, you're then transferred onto a DCI, Detective Constable program. So we've just run that last year, and it was a really successful program.
That's great. And if somebody's applying through the PCDA route, is it possible to access that kind of rank and that kind of level through that route?
Yeah, absolutely. The training is very, very similar. There's no difference today. It's just the qualifications attained. The PCDA, of course, is a 3-year program where you need to study to obtain a degree for 3 years, whereas the DHAP is for 2 years. But certainly once you've completed your training and you're successful and you've got your qualifications, you can certainly transfer that onto the Detective Constable DC route.
Fantastic, thank you. And John, your side and your experience in that, how do you see the recruitment processes? How does the force view them for that kind of level of role?
Well, again, each force is different, Pete. That's the only thing I would say. So I think he has his uniquely positioned to tell us exactly what staffs do, but each force will do something different. Most forces recently have offered the detective route, whereby somebody can come in and train and be a detective. So that is an offering of quite a few forces. I think the issue is, whichever route you go in, whether you go in the DHAB route or the PCDA route or the detective route, once you are in, there is a lot to learn. There's a lot of knowledge to learn in that 2 or 3 year program that you're going to be on, because you're learning about law, you're learning in detail about law like theft and burglary and robbery, knowing what all those things are. You're learning about police powers, you're learning about stop and search powers, you're learning about police and criminal evidence. Massive amount to learn, which is what will be covered on those courses. As I say, one of the support things we offer is we offer an online course that covers all the knowledge elements of all those programs, because no matter which one you go on, you're still going to learn theft, robbery, burglary, stop search powers, you know, your pace powers when you arrest somebody. So there is a lot to learn. I say that is one of the things that we can offer, is an online course that before you start, you can get yourself up to speed with all that knowledge, because it is a lot to it. If you take the PCDA route, you're expected to be working as a police officer and learning and maybe managing a family and so all them things at the same time. So it is a lot to do. And if you, I would suggest if you can get ahead of the game by learning that knowledge before you start, it's going to be a good head start for you.
That's great. Thank you very much. Eos, back to you. I'm conscious of time. I know Eos has got a very important meeting he's got to get to, so I want to get through as many questions as I can. We've got a couple of questions about students looking at crime scene investigation and forensics. Is that the same application route, or is there a separate process for that?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of, on top of the police officer roles that Staffordshire Police advertise, there are a lot of civilian staff roles that are always advertised. And I invite those colleagues to, or potential candidates, to go onto our website and have a look at some of those job profiles that are on there. By all means, link yourselves to the job alert that's on offer with our website. And so that once you've chosen your interest or specialist subject that you want to go into, create yourself a job alert, and when those jobs are about to come up, you will get an alert in relation to those jobs. And within that, there's detailed information about the job profiles for whatever it is that you're looking at. So all those can be certainly looked at through our website, Staffordshire Police careers website. Just to add to what was just being said in relation to some other information about the role of a police officer, again, I can invite you to go on to the College of Policing website. There's a lot of information around the role of a police officer, the requirements, the timings, the type of incidents that you will be dealing with, and some of the skills that you're going to be required to undertake and demonstrate. So a lot of that information is on the Staffordshire Police careers website, as well as the College of Policing website. So it's just definitely worth having a look through those.
That's great. Thank you. I'm going to stick with you. We've got a very specific, again, a couple of really specific ones. What makes a good applicant? What are you looking for? What are the qualities? What are the sort of things that students and applicants in general should be talking about and mentioning?
If you have a look at, there are certain skills that all forces look for. Certainly with Staffordshire, there are certain skills that we look for within an applicant applying for Staffordshire Police. So some of the traits which I've just alluded to, which I mentioned on the College of Policing website, and those traits are in relation to being able to have excellent communication skills, be a great team player, and be able to have integrity, honesty, be able to make decisions. So decision making is a huge one. Be able to be sensitive when dealing with members of the public. Be able to communicate efficiently, that you're able to calm the situation down. So there's a lot of skills and some of the behaviours that we look for within a police officer. And a lot of the aspects of policing that you generally see on YouTube or some of the films are a very small aspect of actually the role of a police officer or the tasks that they undertake. But some of the skills that you would need to demonstrate are those: being able to be a good communicator, team working, professionalism, honesty, integrity, decision making, being able to show at times leadership when attending jobs, because you're going to be dealing with people from various communities, various backgrounds, be dealing with incidents ranging from simple, what I call simple jobs, such as dealing with, for example, say a shoplifting, to more complex incidents such as dealing with domestic incidents, child abuse, public disorder, etc., etc. You will be dealing with a lot of witnesses and victims that are vulnerable. So we're looking again for you to demonstrate your sensitivity, listening skills, all of those kind of things make a really good applicant. You really want to be a rounded officer in relation to being able to display some of those skills to carry out the function of a police officer.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much. John, back to you. We've had a question about how can students prepare for the assessment process? Is there anything they can be doing now? Is there anything they can be looking at or thinking about at this stage to help them?
Yeah, well, I suppose that part of that will tie in with what Iaz was just talking about there, you know, what they're looking for. And what everybody will be assessed against is something called the Competency Values Framework. And that's I have that in a document. I can send it to you, Peter, if you can email it on to everybody after.
Absolutely.
Send that out for you. But basically, the Competencies Values Framework is those things that he was just talking about, but it's broken down very specifically in the framework to say what they are. For instance, it'll say this is integrity. This is one of the competencies we're looking for, and it will break that competency down into behavioural statements. So it'll say that people who do, there might be 7 or 8 behavioural statements saying people, you know, integrity is this, for instance, it's that, it's doing this, it's doing that, so it's quite a specific document. It will take each competency and it will break it down into behavioural statements and saying this is what a police officer does. So one of the competencies might be public service, and it will break that down into 6 or 7 behavioural statements. That is, in essence, what everybody gets assessed against when they go to an assessment centre. So having a familiarity of that competency framework document, I mean, it is available on the College of Policing website, but I'll just say, just for ease of access, Peter, I'm happy to email a copy of that to you so you can send it out. But yeah, so that's one thing you'd be doing. And then the other thing, we have an online course that covers all the aspects of the assessment centres. So in particularly the online one now, it covers the written exercise, the briefing exercise, the interviews and the situational judgment tests, and give you specific advice on how to deal with those things. Because it is one thing, I know you're saying, what are people looking for? Yes, we're looking for people who've got integrity, people who can take ownership, people who are innovative. But sometimes, how do you put that across in an interview, or how do you put that across in an assessment? You know, you could be very innovative, but if you don't know what they're looking for on the assessment, because you don't understand the behavioural statements that they're looking for, you might not evidence that on your interview. Even though you are innovative, you may not evidence it in your the example question you give on your interview. So it is having a good understanding, as well as having the ability. It's knowing how to put that across on an interview and assessment to show that assessor that you have got that ability. So there is a certain way of doing it, a certain technique of doing it, which I suggest is the same for any job, for any interview. You've got to know what it is they're looking for, the assessors are looking for, so you can get that information across in the most efficient way.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Hopefully that answers a lot of the questions. What I will do on the email that I'll send out after this, I'll make sure you all have a link to the course that John has mentioned. There's quite a bit of interest on that on the chat. So I'll make sure you've got access. You can have a look at that. The other thing I wanted to do very much is just to kind of point out a couple of the sites that some of the guys have mentioned. I think that's quite useful. The one that I really like is your Royal College of Policing. Just bear with me while I find that and share it with you. Okay, so hopefully you can all see the College of Policing website.
Yep.
Excellent. Really good. Certainly from my perspective, when I'm doing a guidance interview, this is one of my go-to sites to talk about police officer roles. Lots of stuff at the top there about all the different opportunities available. He has mentioned forensics and some of the more civilian support staff. You've also then got the different routes in here. So you don't necessarily have to have a degree to go in. You can apply for the degree apprenticeship route. In terms of the degree holder entry, as he has mentioned, any subject, any non-policing degree, I think they'd be happy to take. So someone's asked about sport. Yeah, of course, you could do a sport degree and then apply as a graduate. So there's lots more information on here that's definitely worth having a look at. Some of that's really, really good. There's some really great stuff out there for joining the police. There's a couple of others it's probably worth looking at. I did want to share the Staffordshire Police website. Again, I think that's a really useful one. There's some good stuff on there about what opportunities are available. You can apply and register your interest on that site as well. Lots are asking about when a vacancy is available, when does the window open. Get yourself onto there, get registered. That will make sure you're not going to miss out. For me, that's massively important, that if you're doing the prep work now, if you're becoming familiar with the competency frameworks, if you're having a look at where are the vacancies, you're not going to miss, and that's key. So definitely worth a good look. Some really good stuff on there about careers specifically within that. The other one I would probably share, and then we'll jump back to Iaz for sort of last words. We've done police recruitment. I'll find the other one. In fact, while I'm doing that, let's go to Iaz. Just for the last bit, is there any sort of advice you'd give an applicant for either route? John, I'll come to you with the same question shortly. Is there anything that you would say to your younger self when you were at the point thinking, right, I'm going to stick a form in for this now. This is what I want to do. If you could go back in time and talk to that person, what would you say? Iaz first, please.
I would say preparation is key. The more time you can spend prepping for what you want to apply for, the better. So like I said earlier, just really familiarize yourself with the role of a police officer, what it entails, some of the skills that we mentioned earlier, some of the behaviors that you are required to demonstrate as a police officer. And the two websites I certainly mentioned, the College of Policing website, which has got all the behaviors on there and lists how they're linked in, and certainly the Staffordshire Police Careers website. One of the key areas that we find candidates tend to get stuck on, and that's particularly becoming evident with regards to some of the BME female candidates, is the fitness test. Now, generally, we find some of the BME candidates sail through the process, all the tests and the online tests and the assessment centre, and some of the pre-employment checks, and then struggle sometimes due to fitness. So if you can get on, if fitness is not your thing, sort of on a like a routinely basis, it's worth just having a look at your fitness. And there are websites available for that. If you go onto YouTube and put in the police fitness bleep test, for example, that'll give you an idea of what the bleep test entails. The level required at the moment for people to pass is level 5.4. It isn't very difficult, honestly. If I can pass it, anybody can pass it, and I'm not the fittest person around. But there is a requirement for you to have a certain standard of fitness. And don't forget, when you're in uniform, some of the uniform that you wear, the stab vest, the boots, and everything else that's contained within it, you are definitely a lot heavier when you wear that uniform. So there's a requirement that you're able to fulfill a certain fitness role. So I would say preparation is key. Familiarize yourself with the role of a police officer. Familiarize yourself with some of those core skill and behavioral areas. Have a look at your fitness in terms of just prepping now. And there's, as time goes on, just test yourself on a regular basis, and then you'll be able to see where you are. And particularly with my role, this is where we come in as Positive Action. There are particular areas that candidates are finding difficult. We then step in and signpost them towards particular learning around how to improve that particular area of specialism. So that's something that we do. So I'm sure if you ask Peter, I'm more than happy for you to pass on my email to some of the candidates. And if anybody wants to email me direct in relation to some of the quite unique support that we provide to those particular candidates, I'm more than happy to do that.
That's fantastic. I'm going to say thank you very much, Iaz. At this point, I'm very conscious of time. You have Chief Constable waiting for you. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. Please feel free to head off and back to your other meeting that you've got.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you, Peter. Thank you all. Best of luck with everything.
I'm sure we can all remember the horror show of a bleep test in GCSE PE. I know I can. Don't ever want to revisit that. John, you go back, you talk to your younger self, about to submit that form to Manchester. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it is preparation. And it's about with an assessment centre, it's about understanding It is about having the competencies that we've discussed. It is about displaying them competencies, but it's understanding, very much about understanding how you get that across on the assessment centre exercise, on a written exercise. What is it they are looking for? On a briefing exercise, what is it they're looking for? Because these are the things that will be part of the assessment. When they're doing the interview, it's about understanding that competency value framework, understanding them behavioural statements, and making sure you evidence those behavioural statements in your interview answers. For when I was a police officer, I spent a lot of my time was in training, Peter, and a lot of my time was in training and assessment, and I was an assessor for the new recruits. I was assessor for the police promotion assessments. So I've been doing assessments for over 30 years for the police, and it's understanding what it is, because you can quite often you'd be there doing assessments. Somebody could come along with an example of something they've done, and it could be something really fantastic. You know, it could be. So if on the interview they were asking you for an example of a public service, when you've done something to serve the public, people might come along with a fantastic example where I've done this, and I was a special constable and I fought with somebody and I got me handcuffs on them, and I did. And it could be really fantastic, really brave, really marvellous thing that it did. But if it doesn't hit any of the behavioural statements for that competency, then it doesn't score them anything. So it's about very much understanding that process of what are these competencies, and what are the behavioural statements for each competency. And then it's about the written exercise and the briefing exercise. I mean, we go into this a lot more depth on the course I do, but in essence, both of them exercises that you will do on the assessment, you get the role, you play the role of a police officer. They'll give you a scenario or some information, and then in the written exercise, you're meant to write what you would do about it. In the briefing exercise, it's the same thing, but you say what you would do about it, and this is recorded. But it's about, people don't understand what they're looking for there. What scores well is if they present you with this situation, it's being able to say, right, this is what the issue is. The issue is this. And then and then people often jump from that to solving. So this is what I'm going to do about it. And both of them things will score points on that assessment. But what will score a lot of points, and what most people miss out, is the why. So the rough model for answering any of those exercises saying, well, the issue is this, and this is why it's an issue. This is the consequences of this. If we don't deal with it, the consequences are this, that the public might lose faith in us, that we won't be able to get information to do our job. So it's explaining what the consequence, then going on to say, and this is what you do about it. So it's almost like a framework saying, this is what the issue is, this is why it's an issue, these are the consequences, and this is what I would do about it. So but it's understanding that that's how you will score points, because it is inherently on these assessments, it is a point scoring system, because what they're trying to do is be as objective as possible, to be fair. So when somebody's giving an answer to an exercise, be it an interview, that assessor will have a sheet, a mark guide, basically. And if you say something that's on the mark guide, you'll get the point. So it's understanding how to frame your answers in a model, with a model such as this is what I do, this is why I do it, this is how I would do it. Because they are the three things that will score you points. So it's understanding that. So yeah, preparation. That's what it's all about. It's, you can be a fantastic person, a great person, have all the qualities that the police are looking for, but if you don't put it across on that assessment centre, you've missed your opportunity.
That's great.
Preparation's key.
That's great. Thank you very much, John. That's certainly something I'd echo for anybody looking at any application process, particularly those who are seeking sort of apprenticeship route. It's changing your mindset into, it's not as simple as a form and do they like me? It's how do you score? What are they really looking for? And I think you're right, drilling down into what exactly they're offering. Have you just had a cup of tea delivered there? Is that a cup of tea or coffee for you?
Me, Peter.
Yeah.
No, my grandson's just walked in.
Oh, nice.
COVID and working from home, so he's just timbled in. Hello.
So I think that element of preparation, massively important.
All right, Gary.
Echo that, for certain. copy that.
Yeah.
All right, so I think I'm going to bring that to an end. You will get a copy of this recording. Everybody will get one of those. There was a site that we mentioned, joining the police. He has mentioned that one in particular. Hopefully you can all see that on screen. That's what that one looks like. Really, really good, really useful site. There's quite a bit on there about who's recruiting. It will show you most of the forces across the country. And when we're looking at when is the window, this is where this will be advertised. They will put on here who's looking for what and when. They'll tell you a bit about those forces. That's a relatively new site, certainly for me. I don't know how long it's been out there, but it's one I've come across recently. Really, really good. Gives you lots of stuff about what to look out for. Again, you can also create an alert. So there's lots of sites out there that will do the work for you, that will do the search work. Use that, get yourself registered, get yourself on these sites so that they're emailing you with the vacancies. You can then devote that time to putting in that preparation, to looking at the competency frameworks. For those of you still in school or college, think about a competency framework as a marking scheme. It's the same thing. It's something that a member of staff has got, that they are looking at something you've submitted or said and ticking things off. If you know what they're looking for, you're going to score highly. You're going to be better off. I think any age, no matter what age you are, whether you're school, college, or beyond that, I know we've got a couple of older students, older members listening. There's lots of stuff on the sites that we've talked about that can help with applications. I think police are very keen to take experienced members of staff who've got a little bit more of that life experience. There's lots of that out there as well, lots of support for you. No matter what level or what particular role you're looking at within the police. So hopefully that is everything from everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you, John. That's really useful. I will, as I said, make sure that a link to John's online course is available for everybody so you can have a look at that and some of the wider offering that his company has got for you as well. Definitely worth having a look at. If you do have any further questions, you'll have a contact details for me on the plan that you'll receive in the next week or so on the recording. There'll also be an evaluation form. If you could fill that out for me, that'd be very kind. Really appreciate that. It does help us when we're planning future events and certainly when we're looking at other areas or other topics that we need to cover. So that's it for everybody. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day and you'll get the recording within the next week or two. Thank you very much. Thanks, John. Bye, guys.